Hi, I am coming to you from Tyler, Texas on the coldest day I have ever experienced in my whole life, and I've lived a long time. So, today I'm doing something really special that I've never done before. I'm going to read to you from my latest book, Marriage Conversations from Coexisting to Cherished. It's so new, I'm having trouble remembering the name. Okay, and I just want to read this story about my parents to you. It's really personal to me, and I'll try to get through it. I don't know how long it'll take. So, this is the first chapter. Code 44. Why bother to marry at all? Because marriage is still our best hope for physical, emotional, and spiritual intimacy. The light switched on, jarring me out of my fitful sleep on the cot next to my dad's bed. The pungent smell of antiseptics jolted my mind into harsh reality. Is he breathing? There's no signal on the monitor, demanded the nurse. I cowered in the corner, watching with trepidation as nurses crowded into his room, surrounded his bed, and decided instantly how to proceed. Code 44 in room 5823. Code 44 in room 5823. The automated warning blared throughout the empty hallways of the hospital. A protocol I didn't understand unfolded systematically in front of me. Ignoring me, they focused on his care. They snatched the only chair out of the way to make room for the boxy red defibrillator. Gently, a nurse ushered me into the hall where the lone chair waited for me, as if I could sit down. Instead, I stood where I could see into the room. From my vantage point, I glimpsed Dad's lower left leg and foot. I watched the color leave his skin. Grief seized my heart. My lungs froze. I craved Dad's humor in this crisis moment, his natural ability to create fun at the drop of a hat. Memories of campsites, tree forts, fishing, and hammocks dazzled my brain in flashes of heavenly light. They moved his body to a gurney. Bewildered and frantic, my mind tried to process the scene. What was happening? We're moving him to ICU, whispered a nurse coming from his room to stand beside me. You mean he's still with us? I asked. He's alive? And I'm going to interrupt my reading just this minute to give you more information because you're so kind to listen to this. At that moment, I was thinking that I was going to have to call my mom and tell her that Dad had died. She had just left the hospital probably 2 hours before that, and I was on duty sleeping in a cot next to his bed. And I was just wondering, how would I tell my mother that my dad had died? So when I realized that he was still alive, I was just relieved because at least she could get to the hospital back up there and say goodbye to him. So I'm going to keep reading because I think you're going to love the way what happened next. You mean he's still with us? I asked. He's alive? My emotions trembled between hope and unreality. Like creeping through fog on a country road in early winter, we were surrounded by light but unable to see the journey ahead of us. In the days that followed, my dad surprised us all, especially his doctors. While in a medically induced coma, he seemed to respond to Mom's voice with raised eyebrows each time she spoke. Was he working hard to let us know he could hear her? The doctors constantly reminded us not to get our hopes up. They told us to prepare to end life support. For 2 weeks, we wondered if it was just our imagination or if he laughed at our jokes. Was he having random spasms or were his shoulders shaking with humor at just the right moments? Finally, the day came when they took him off his ventilator tube and reduced the sedation. Would he function purposefully? I was the first to arrive when they opened ICU that morning. Where's Anne? He asked me when he saw me. The first words out of his mouth were about our sweet mother, who walked in moments behind me with family members. A gift of true love, a love that defies reason, a love that defines doctor's orders and human imagination. My dad's love for Mom defied physical boundaries and the laws of nature, especially human nature. My dad came back for my mom in my favorite love story ever. In all, they celebrated 58 years of marriage together before Dad left for heaven. They were two of the sweetest lovebirds I know. I hesitated to share this story of Dad's devotion to our mom because it sounds so storybook perfect. We all want the storybook romance, don't we? However, I know the rest of the story. They worked hard to get to the place of true oneness, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. My dad was known for fun while my mom got the job done. They came close to throwing in the towel. I saw how their marriage looked in moments of intense distress. Yep, I had a front row seat. My beautiful mom and dad gave me permission to make a spot for you on the front row, too. They shared intimate parts of their stories here, hoping to encourage others to hang in there. Doomed or delighted. Let's face it, our culture seems pretty hopeless for good marriages. It can feel like the only people with good marriages are the genetic superheroes of the relationship universe. Is a good marriage only for super gifted people, like only super smart people make it through medical school, or only super athletes make it to the NBA? NBA? I always say M, I don't know why. The NBA. If our marriages fall apart, are our kids' marriages doomed? What if we didn't grow up with happily married parents? I have great news. We all can have hope. Most marriages can improve immediately with a few new skills. Besides, who cares about anyone else's marriage? We just want to be cherished in our own marriage, right? If the big question is why bother to marry at all, the answer is simple: because marriage remains our best hope for physical, emotional, and spiritual intimacy. Marriage provides the best path to oneness, that tenderness and intimacy that mark lifelong mutual commitment. Marriage is the place where words like community, intimacy, friendship, oneness, unity can come together if we decide to be intentional in our love for each other. I watched my parents build tenderness and intimacy into their marriage. Our family suspects Dad's spirit refused to leave Mom. His life on earth extended beyond all odds, we believe, because the physical, emotional, and spiritual ties between them were so strong. My dad would never have claimed to deserve a dignified death. In fact, he would have scoffed at such a notion. He spent the last 30 years of his life learning to live as a recovering alcoholic. His humility became a hallmark of his life, but he didn't start out that way. He started out wounded. We all start our marriages with wounds. Can we recover and build redemptive relationships? Yes. The key to a miraculous marriage is fellowship. Fellowship is the gentle art of companionship. I think I've read enough for now. I hope that gives you a taste of what to expect. We just loaded this book with tons of stories from our family, and it was our privilege, our pleasure to share them. David and I took a big gulp, and we just bit our fingernails and decided to share some of our own personal stories to complement the ones my parents shared. So, and I think maybe it's important for you to know I wrote this book for my children first. That's what Mother and I collaborated on it with the stories, because we wanted my kids and the generation that my children are in of our family to know some of these stories about how to make a great marriage, to go from coexisting to cherishing. It's not easy, and we just wanted you to have that option. We wanted you to know what that might look like and how hard it could be, and that you're not alone. If you're having a need for better options and practical ideas, we just wanted to load this book up with them, mainly because we originally wrote it for my own kids. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks.